are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win show.
Welcome to the Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul. I'm Heather.
I'm Paul.
And we have with us today Chad O'Connor from Fresh Fit Foods.
Hello there.
So this show is based on our over 12 years of experience in working with entrepreneurs and executives, helping them to powerfully lead change because we're in the fastest paced business environment that anyone's ever seen before. So Chad O'Connor founded Fresh Fit Foods back in 2013, and you've got such an incredible story to share that I want to jump right in, but I will just say this too. For me, it's not just the efficiency, because you can get efficiency by cooking a lean cuisine in the microwave.
Right.
For me, it's about, you're also really so into health and fitness. It's about how we help people stay in this peak state, right? How do you get to be a top performer? Because the executives, the entrepreneurs we work with, they run so hard.
Right.
Feeding their bodies is incredibly important. So, Chad, you have a culinary degree.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
We want to hear your story. So bring us to, back to the beginning. How did you get into this line of work?
So, I've been cooking as long as I can remember. My grandmother says even like the earliest memories of me are, helping her make cashew brittle around the holidays in particular, and how I was always just fascinated and always wanted to help out. I got my first job in a kitchen when I was 14. So my mom was, picking me up and dropping me off at work. And I pretty much have been working ever since. So even in high school, when I was a senior in high school, I did like a co-op. So basically I would work half the day, or I would go to school half the day and then I would work. So I was working 40 hours a week even in high school. So hospitality is the only thing that I've ever done. After I finished high school, I knew that I wanted to go to culinary school because I cooked all my way up until that point. Went to culinary school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Culinary Institute. Went to school there for a year and graduated, moved out to Arizona.
What was culinary school like for you? Is it solely just focused on the art of cooking, or is it bigger than that?
A lot of it was cooking, but then a lot of it was like, managing a restaurant, right? So like you're doing a lot of as far as food costing and trying to run inventory and classes like that.
So they teach you the actual business aspects of the culinary world.
Yeah,
in addition,
they try to, I guess. I guess. So I mean, as far as I'm glad that I went to culinary school, but I feel like obviously I've learned 100 times more outside of culinary school than I ever did in culinary school. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough that when I was younger and I was in high school, I actually worked for a chef who was a great guy. He was the executive chef for Ritz-Carlton in Florida. So the guy is like a top tier chef. His wife's father was from my little podunk town, Adrian, Michigan, and her father got sick. So she wanted to move back to take care of him. He obviously got dragged back with his wife to go to my little hometown, and he started working at the country club in my hometown, which was the nicest place to work as a chef in my hometown. So I started working for this guy, and he would take the time to really teach me how to do things the right way. And he spent a lot of time with me, and I was very, very fortunate to work with this guy. I mean, he got to the point that he would not let me, I'm right-handed. So he wouldn't let me saute with my right hand. He would only let me saute with my left because I needed to get good with both hands. So if he caught me sauteing with my right hand, he would hit me on the hand with tongs until I went with my left hand. So and it was crazy. I hated the guy when I worked for him, right? I'm like, God, this guy's the worst.
Yeah.
But looking back, I mean, he was a phenomenal mentor, so something that I'll never forget.
I love hearing stories about that. So if there's one thing that you took away from working with him, what was that?
The one thing that I probably took away from Robert was to just never settle for anything less than perfection. Because he would always say, if I made something, he tasted it, he's like, that's good, but what can we do to elevate it to great? And I think I've taken that with me to this day. So anytime I taste anything, I'm like, okay, that's good. But now if we added a little bit of basil or, a pinch of salt or a touch of red pepper to this, would it make it to that next level? And 9 times out of 10, yeah, it would. So why wouldn't we just take that extra step to make it excellent as opposed to good?
So what's really cool is we're getting to hear sort of the backstory and why our meals taste like they do. So, just to clarify, the business that Chad founded back in 2013, Fresh Fit Foods, if you're not familiar with it, if you live in Southwest Florida, you're probably familiar with it if you're not already eating it. But they deliver meals to our door twice a week so that we have access to not only delicious, I mean, they are delicious meals.
I know when I explain it to people, I mean, this is what I tell them, Chad. I go, because most people have heard of the different food services that have been around.
Right.
I mean, let's go from the very beginning. I think was like Jenny Craig.
Sure.
Was the first delivering
Weight
food
Watchers,
to
Jenny
people,
Craig,
right?
absolutely.
All of those.
Oh my God, I've tried those before.
But the food is generally not that good. It's mass produced. It's
why you lose weight.
Manufactured, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I tell people, I go, this food is so good. If I was to dump it on a plate and serve it to you and you didn't know any better, you think it was a restaurant.
Right.
I mean, it
like a
really
good
is
restaurant.
that good.
And that's what we aspire to be. Like
Yep.
I tell people all the time, yes, we're gluten-free, right? We're under 500 calories. But when you eat one of our meals, I don't want your mind to be like, hey, that was a really good meal for something that was under 500 calories or something that was gluten-free. I want somebody to eat one of our meals and say, hey, that was a great meal, and think nothing more of it. So, and I think that we've been able to accomplish that.
Do you know what's funny? I didn't know your meals were under 500 calories.
Yeah, everything on the menu. Yeah.
And I've been splitting mine in half,
Right.
because half of it, the way that you put it together, half of it is sufficient for me for a portion size, and then I'll eat the other half the next day or the next meal. So
Right.
good to know.
So it's crazy. I mean, if you ever look, I mean, now counting macros is like the big thing, right? So if you ever look at like a handful of candy corn or like a giant table full of broccoli, it's like the same amount of calories, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's nice about our meals is that it looks like a ton of food, but it's all lean proteins, fresh vegetables. So you can eat a lot of that and it's not very calorically dense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I also am a big believer in, I want people to get their money's worth. So if someone eats one of my meals and they feel like they need to eat something afterwards, or they're like, I'm still a little bit hungry, it's not what I'm going for. I want them to feel satisfied. And I want them to, to look at it and be like, yeah, that was definitely worth every penny that I spent on it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh my
So
gosh,
that's
it
huge
is.
for me.
So I want to just share for a moment, and then we're going to go backwards again. I want to share for a moment what our journey has been in just trying to prepare meals, because the only thing that I'm really good at making for dinner is reservations. That's it. You don't want to count on me for anything. And so Paul
We didn't
certainly
marry each
did
other.
not.
We didn't marry each
we
other
didn't
and get
marry each
together
other
because of our cooking. That's
cooking.
for sure.
We married each other because we like going out to restaurants. But the reality is, for us as very busy business owners, we weren't good at the planning part. Right? We weren't good at the planning part, so we weren't good at having the right list together with the right ingredients and doing the grocery shopping, and especially for only two people, when a lot of times what's packaged are the larger, portions.
Right.
Yeah,
and
when
we're
you-
not
well,
good at
well-
freezing and defrosting. I mean, like, you name it, we're not good at it when it comes to cooking. So it was...
Well, and we
was-
do a lot of our cooking at Costco.
Not
and
cooking,
so, no, yeah,
shopping.
shopping at Costco.
Right.
And so we're buying like meals for
Yeah.
Absolutely.
40 people, right?
So for us, it was, I can't even express to you what a struggle it was to have healthy. Now this is the biggest struggle, because of course, yes, we could have gotten frozen anything that you could microwave, but to keep ourselves healthy and eating well throughout the day and eating the kinds of meals that keep us at peak performance, we were terrible.
Right.
And so it was a major source of frustration.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to your first start after you get out of culinary school. How did you get started in the culinary world?
So my brother, what brought me to Florida, and I've been in the hospitality industry for many, many, many years. So after culinary school, I went to Arizona. I was a cook. I wasn't making any money, as most cooks know. So I started waiting tables. I had a good base of knowledge from my culinary background. So I started waiting tables, and I eventually started working at nicer restaurants. And I worked at Ruth Chris for about 5 years. Great job. But as I'm working at Ruth Chris, I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, do I want to be a waiter the rest of my life? And I'm like, absolutely not. So I decided to go back to school. So I went back to school and got a degree in dietetics. So I figured between, my cooking background and then my, my degree in dietetics, there's got to be like something that I can do here, because I've always worked out. I've always like had been healthy minded, and I've always liked to cook. So my brother, in the meantime, while I was out in Arizona, opened up a CrossFit gym in Naples, Florida. So he gets me to come and move here, and we kind of collaborate on this idea like, hey, we should start offering prepared meals to our client base and see how it goes. So I'm like, all right, awesome. So we, try to start getting some feedback from people and say, hey, would you be interested in something like this? And we got like, yeah, we'll give it a try, right? So we went to a local commissary, which is actually St. Matthew's House, which is a homeless shelter here in Naples. They do a lot of phenomenal things for this community, and they agreed to let us use their kitchen during hours that they weren't using it. So I would get there at like 5 in the morning, and then I would have to be out of there by 11 because that's when they start their production for the day. So I mean, I had this window that I had to go in and prepare all this stuff, and then we packaged it, delivered it to the gym, and people really liked it.
And are you doing this on your own?
At that point, I was. Yeah, it was terrible.
And so how many people were you cooking for
like
during
30.
this time?
But still it's a lot, right?
Well, I mean, by myself. For two.
Yeah,
30 is a lot.
But it was still the 8 meals a week. So I mean, I was making all these meals by myself, and like, yeah, it got very overwhelming really quickly. So that's kind of how it started, and then things started going well, right? So then what I did is I actually started employing people from the shelter. So I actually had some of the residents there and gave them jobs to come and work and try to better their situation, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So what we ended up doing is I had a guy come in. He's like, hey, I really like your food. I like what you're doing here. Would you mind if I went to other gyms in the area and offered this? And I'm like, sure, that'd be great. So this guy, Dominic, kind of turned into like a salesman for us. So he went around to local gyms and said, hey, we've got this product. It's going really well at this particular location. What would you guys think about carrying it? And they're like, sure, why not? Let's see how it happens. And then it went well. So now we're growing. And then it got to the point that to continue to grow, I felt like the next course of action, the path of least resistance was home delivery. So not everybody wants to go to a gym.
So at that time you were only through the gyms.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So people could like if you wanted to have my meals, you could only go into a location and pick it up. So which is okay if you're a member there, awesome, right? Because you're already there, you're working out, and then you just grab your meals on your way home. But if you're not a member of that gym, I mean, how convenient is it to have to run down Immokalee Road at 5 o'clock at night to grab meals? Not very. I mean, that could be like an hour commute just to get back and So the path of least resistance again seemed to be home delivery. Now I was terrified to do home delivery, like terrified.
So how many clients do you have at this stage?
At this rate, you're probably talking like 60, 65, 70-ish, something like that. So we're doing well.
And you're delivering right now out of how many gyms? Not right now, but I mean at this stage.
At that point, we probably had like 6 to 8, and they're all like smaller CrossFit style gyms. It wasn't like big like
LA Fitness.
LA Fitnesses and stuff like that. No, these are like local mom and pops kind of places. Yeah.
Got it.
And their member base might have been 50 to 100 people, something like that. So they were smaller gyms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So you're at this critical mass where you're delivering to 6 or 7 or so gyms,
right,
and you're thinking home delivery, and it's scaring you.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Because now I've got to buy a van, right? So then we have this big capital expenditure. Now, at this point, my brother ends up selling his business to his partners. Okay. So they kind of, come to me and say, hey, we'd like you to continue doing this for us. And I'm like, my brother's not a part of this anymore. So I'm actually going to go out and start my own thing. Hence Fresh Fit Foods 4 years ago. So here we are. I take a massive loan from my then girlfriend's father, who wasn't now she's my wife. So she's my wife.
Oh, good. I was like, oh no.
So, but then she was my girlfriend. So I mean, we were dating less than a year, and her dad just went out on a limb and said, and he's like, listen, I think I believe in what you're doing, and I'm gonna whatever you need, I'll be there. So he was huge in the start of all of this.
Wow.
And the thing with home delivery that was really tricky at first is Naples is really big, right? It's one of the largest counties in the state, let alone in the United States. So we've got one delivery here and one delivery here, one delivery here. So as far as efficiency, it was not efficient whatsoever, but you have to start somewhere, right? So now we've built it to the point that we're within 2 to 5 minutes of anybody that adds on to our meal because we have so many stops. I mean, we have over 100 deliveries to homes in Naples alone. So, I mean, there's nowhere that I can't get to within 5 minutes for the most part with home delivery. But back then, it might have been 45 minutes in between stops. You know what I mean? I might have only had 10 stops, but one is on 951 and Collier Boulevard, and the other one's on Bonita Beach Road and 41. I mean,
you got to start somewhere,
It was spread out, yeah. So it was scary. I mean, it was scary.
Sure.
And are you doing the delivering at this stage?
No, luckily I
had
someone
else driving. Okay, all right.
I had a guy to deliver. So.
And now, if you fast forward to where you are today. Now, I read in Gulf Shore Business recently that you just opened a new location in Bonita. Is that right?
Yep.
So is that your home base now?
It is.
Okay.
It is. Yeah, we were on 41 for almost 4 years. So right next to that huge Mercedes-Benz dealership on 41 is where we were at, Tamiami Square Plaza. And now we're in the Burnwood Business District in Bonita. So we're in just under a 3,000 square foot facility. So.
And you're serving not just Collier anymore. You've also expanded into
Yeah, we do Collier
Lee
and
as well.
Lee. Yep.
Right.
No,
So
we don't do a ton of business in Lee. I mean, it's still a work in progress, but yes, we do delivery to both Lee and Collier.
Got it. Now, I want to go back to this degree in dietetics. Now, I can sort of guess that has to do with nutrition, but
Yes.
otherwise I know nothing about that degree. So how did you use that degree, what you learned in dietetics, and bring that into your business?
To be honest, not a whole lot.
Okay.
To be
what
perfectly
was
honest,
that?
I just felt like it gave me credibility.
Okay.
If you will, right? Because when I'm going to school for nutrition and dietetics, it's the food pyramid, right? So you got like the grains on the bottom, and then and that's basically the opposite of how I run my business. You know what I mean? So, but I felt like it gave me a certain amount of credibility, and then I took what I learned at school, but then I started doing some research on my own and started researching the paleo diet and doing low carb diets and kind of converting fat to fuel and things like that. And that's where I always really ate, and that's how I ate anyways. Lean proteins, fresh vegetables, very little starch if at all possible. So that's how I kind of transitioned into this type of meal plan.
Got it.
As opposed to what I learned in school for dietetics.
Now, you are a CrossFit competitor. What you were a CrossFit competitor.
Yeah.
But you're still way into CrossFit now, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So I mean, I'm more into traditional working out at this point in my life, but I still do implement those same kind of principles from CrossFit. So high intensity, going from machine to machine, try to keep your heart rate up during the workout and stuff like that. So, but I'm not doing this super heavy weight overhead. I'm getting too old for that, I guess.
Got it.
So do you find that the CrossFit competitors or people that are into CrossFit are an ideal client for you?
Absolutely.
Well, who is your ideal client?
To be honest, I mean, and I tell people this, anybody that eats. I mean, I like to think that our product is for absolutely everyone. Now, living in Naples, obviously there's an older demographic here. A lot of older people love our food, but a lot don't. And it's just because they've kind of eaten this meat and potatoes way their whole life. And to go from that style of eating to what I prepare is a pretty big stretch, right?
Spaghetti squash.
Right, yeah. So it's tough.
You're like, I just want to eat some spaghetti, but the squash is pretty good.
Right.
It
But
is
like
good,
an 80, 85-year-old person, I mean, that's never had spaghetti squash. I mean, it's just not their thing.
Right.
I mean, they're like, where's my pasta? You know what I mean? This isn't the same.
And what's funny, I was eating that spaghetti squash meal last night, which has it has sun-dried tomatoes in it, and it's got artichokes, and it has grilled chicken, and I don't know what else is in there, but it is so delicious. And I was saying to our goddaughter Bailey last night that I could never, I mean, I don't know what it would take for me to put that meal together by myself.
Right.
But it would be a huge task for me.
Sure.
So.
Hey, so I want to change gears a little bit and talk about just this. We started off with the speed and how people more and more these days just want they want to maximize their time with their families, so they don't want to be, unless you're somebody who's a chef or somebody. I have a friend that loves to cook. He's a trained culinary chef, loves to cook, and it's part of his family now. But I think for most people that it's kind of a hassle.
I would agree.
So
1,000%.
This I think the speed of this and the efficiency is what people are looking for these days. But the industry has changed a lot, and it's evolving as well. And so now you have, Blue Aprons, you have the Hello Freshes out there, which aren't exactly your type of business
Same but different,
model.
right? Yeah, exactly.
But, and then, talk a little bit about those and what's the difference between yours and what those offer.
I think hospitality in general is really changing, right? So you got all these smaller restaurants, because at one point it was the Applebee's and the Chili's and all those types of those restaurants that were everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if I owned one of those, I would be terrified at this point in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why?
Just because they're dying. I mean, those types of restaurants are absolutely dying because there's so many other better options out there. So especially look at a place like Naples. All of these great mom and pops places are locally owned places, and I think that consumers are starting to get a little bit more conscious about where they're going to eat. So why were they going to go spend their money at a place like that when they can go to a place that is owned by a local resident here that has great food? They're using fresh produce. They're using local proteins. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you? And you're talking a difference of a few bucks probably in the cost.
And you're also, these restaurants around Naples, they're all over the place in strip malls. You would never know that you'd walk into the strip mall restaurant and see what's behind the door. First of all, they're beautiful.
Right.
But then to have the kind of dining experience, I mean, it's not like you have to have your own standalone
The standalones,
restaurant anymore.
Naples does not have standalones. So,
Yeah.
Well, it's bottom line, it's the food, it's the taste, it is the quality that people are looking for these days,
Absolutely.
And I think that's a huge part of it, is that people demand that now.
Sure, and they should.
Yeah.
We work really hard for our money, so why should I pay great money for subpar food? It doesn't make any sense.
That's right.
And I think that you deserve a better product. So as far as like this particular aspect of the hospitality industry, this meal delivery thing that is just like exploding, right? They're projecting that the meal plan industry in the next 7 to 10 years is going to be a $20 to $30 billion industry. Wow. I mean, so for me, that's super exciting, right? Because I got in on the ground floor. I actually started this before Blue Apron, before Plated. Like none of those companies even existed when I started doing this. So for me, it's fantastic. And not only that is really cool, right? The segment of hospitality that's exploding. The fact that I've heard that estimates for Collier County, they're expecting that Collier County in the next 7 years is going to triple in population. Now, that's terrible for
traffic.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I just had a flash.
As an entrepreneur, as a business owner here in town, I mean, that's fantastic.
Huge.
I mean, that is like the best news ever, right? So, and I'm very excited about the future of what we're doing, because I think that as long as we continue to stay with trends, right, I think that there's still going to be a ton of growth to experience.
Yeah.
Now you have, I think, 7 employees, did you say?
Yes.
And going from the one-man show that you were to now 7, that obviously requires a different skill set and leadership.
Sure.
Talk to us about some of the challenges maybe that you've had as you've grown your business.
To be honest, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I think any business owner in the world can tell you, that finding really good employees is really tough. It's really, really tough. So when you do find a good one, hold on to them.
Then keeping good employees
do whatever you got to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You have to do what you have to do to find good employees. So I am a huge believer in leading by example. I'm in my kitchen 5 days a week. All the days that my guys are there, I'm also there. And I'm the first one that's going to go in the dish pit and wash dishes and do what I have to do to make sure that the machine is well oiled, right? So I think that's the biggest thing for me as a business owner, is that I like to lead by example and show my guys. And I would never ask them to do something that I haven't already done myself. And in this particular industry, the hospitality industry, cooking, it's huge. You have to. You can't ask a guy to do something that you wouldn't do. It just doesn't work that way. So,
got it. What would you? This is just a question that popped in my head while you were speaking about it. What would you tell yourself when you, as a young entrepreneur, the lessons you've learned so far? What would be like the best tip you could give a young entrepreneur?
Don't sit back and wait for things to happen. I think that people just hope that good things are going to come their way, and it just doesn't work that way. If you're not willing to go out and get it, unfortunately, you're always going to come up short. So that would be what I tell myself. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Go to events. Do what you have to do. Put yourself out there. Let people know, what you're offering and what you're doing. Because if you're just sitting back and just hoping that the phone's going to ring, you're going to be buried.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind. You're never going to be able to get above the curve.
And so where do you see your business if you look out the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, and I think this, we can just piggyback on that. The whole Amazon, Amazon now has bought Whole Foods. What does that mean to this industry? What does that mean to you in particular?
I mean, hopefully nothing for a little while, being in South Florida, right? I don't think they've targeted Naples quite yet for what they want to do, but Amazon's doing some pretty impressive stuff. They have storefronts in like Seattle and larger cities, basically, that you can walk in. There's no one actually working there. There's no physical presence there, but all the shelves are lined with prepared foods. And you walk in, and as soon as you walk through the door, it scans your smartphone, whatever you have on you, for your Amazon Prime membership. So you walk in, you grab whatever you grab. Once you leave the door, it automatically charges your Amazon membership. you can't compete with that. Like no small business owner has the money to be able to compete with things like that. So I'm hoping they stay out of our little segment for the foreseeable future. And if they ever do, make their way down here, I mean, I'm always interested in getting acquired too, I suppose.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was not aware that they were doing prepared food. So you're talking about a service that is in some way similar to yours, where are they actually creating foods that are with locally sourced fresh ingredients?
Yeah, they're doing like Amazon Fresh. I mean, they're very cutting edge. I mean, Steve Bezos or Jeff Bezos, sorry, he's literally going to take over the world. I mean, it is unbelievable some of the things they're doing, and it's super cool, right? I mean, it's very, very cool what they're talking about doing. So, as far as how that affects my business, like I said today, I don't think it really affects me. I think that I'm very fortunate that I have been doing this as long as I have in this community, because I do think that we are known. I think that people we serve a quality product that people can identify with, so that we have that going for us. I think that as long as we continue to pivot and stay with what is trending with food, we'll be okay.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the quality, the food quality, especially what you deliver, and there's a dramatic difference from the different food services that we've used. I think we're probably a pretty good test market for food.
That's awesome to hear. That's great to hear.
And I mean, the fact that you guys deliver the food to us, and that it's packaged the way it is, it's microwavable, it's good, it's fresh, it's healthy, the calorie count on it, the expiration date is on it.
Right.
It's everything that's, that we need. I mean, there's nothing better to be able to run downstairs while we're working in our home office and cook up a meal and literally sit down from the time I grab it out of the refrigerator and eat it, it's 10 minutes and I'm done.
Right.
And the convenience is just mind blowing.
Sure.
And I love it. But what makes it all work is that it's good tasting quality food. And I think that's what's important.
Sure. I always tell my wife, I'm like, if I wasn't an owner of this company, I would definitely be a client. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the owner, right? Like, I just think that we do a good job. It hasn't always been as good as it is now. And I think that we're going to continue to do an even better job. I mean, every single week I push my guys to do the best that they possibly can. So even though they've done this dish maybe 50 times, right, over the last 4 or 5 years, like, there's no reason to not look at it and say, hey, can I make this better than we did last time? And I think 9 times out of 10, sure you can. So you just have to kind of, get the wheel spinning and figure out what is going to make it from good to great. You know what I mean? And I have a staff that is willing to kind of look at it from that perspective.
So we're going to wrap this up in just a minute, but I want to ask this question because I think it's so critical. Efficiency is a big part of why we're eating the meals. As I said, that is something that was a major frustration that now I feel like is just gone, right? It's easy now. But I want to talk a little bit about the importance of what we're feeding ourselves in terms of how we stay in a peak state. Because when I think about the executives, the entrepreneurs that we work with, who was it we were just talking to? Oh, Jeff was out in going to Orlando, and he said, I had to make a choice. Do I go out of my way to find something healthy? And this is a really healthy guy. Do I go out of my way to find something healthy, or do I just run through a drive-through? Right. And he ends up going through the drive-through because it was more convenient at the time. But what does that do when you're putting something in your body that is not optimal? How does that impact your ability to focus, your thought process, your energy level?
I mean, that's a great question. I'm not exactly sure of all the chemistry behind eating garbage food, but obviously I think there's a ton of information out there just showing that, not only is it awful for your heart, it clogs your arteries. I mean, it's going to make you tired and groggy, and you're not going to be able to perform at a peak level, right? So from that perspective, again, the exact chemistry behind that question, I don't know that I can answer, very thoughtfully. But I do know that eating fresh food and kind of going out of your way, as far as from my personal point of view and how it's affected my life. I mean, I sleep better. I think more clearly. I'm able to focus more. And ultimately it just makes me feel, and I have a lot more energy, which is huge, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. I'm super busy, and and then at the end of a super long day, I have to go home and play with my 3-year-old, which is great. But in order to do that, you have to have energy, right? So you got to fuel the right way. So that's what I think, and how, healthy eating has personally impacted my life.
Well, I appreciate you taking this struggle out of our world.
No, I'm
because
happy to do it. No, we appreciate the business.
It was a major struggle, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story. And it's just really cool how you got into this line of work. And you know, so is your brother working with you still, or did he go off and do
Nope,
something
he's
different?
actually he's out in Colorado now. He's
Okay.
on another business venture. He's doing really, really well out there, which is awesome that he lives in Colorado because now I can go visit there, which is great.
Yeah.
Always
Great.
got a place to stay when I go out there, which is fantastic. He lives just outside of Denver. So, but yeah, no, I think the future is very, very bright for this particular segment of hospitality, and I'm glad that I was in it early, and I'm glad that I've got a great staff behind me, and I've got an awesome community of people that are willing to give us a try and do business with us.
So
All right,
that's
Chad.
Fresh Fit Foods.
Yes, tongue twister.
Yes.
It is.
It's a tongue twister.
We
And it's
tried.
Fresh Fit Naples.com.
Yes, Fresh Fit Naples. Fresh Fit Naples.
Fit Naples.
Yeah,
Okay.
Fresh Fit Foods was taken,
Sorry.
unfortunately. So yeah, freshfitnaples.com is our website.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us
No,
today.
awesome, guys. Really
And
appreciate it.
Thanks to all of you who joined in for the Evolve to Win show, produced in partnership with Gulf Shore Business Magazine. And if you loved this show and you want to share it, please do. And you can connect with us on social media and check out the show notes for more information on Chad and his company. And if you haven't tried his food yet, I'm just going to say I'm a huge fan.